quite a lot to get through. So I'd like to welcome everyone from around the world. I think we owe everyone a bit of a good morning, a good afternoon, a good evening in some cases. So it's my absolute pleasure to be welcoming you all to the very first Rising Smart Water Professionals event. We have a very exciting, interactive, and engaging session for you all today, where you'll all have the opportunity to discuss, learn, and share your thoughts on all topics relating to smart water. Today's event, A Smart Start to Your Water Career, is not only for those new to the sector, but really for anyone who wants to maintain what we refer to as a beginner's mindset. This is where we continuously want to be learning about how we can use smart technology to improve water management around the world. Let's go on to the agenda for today. Thank you. So we have some introductions to make so that you all know who we are. And then that will be followed by our wonderful Joone Lopez keynote speaker, who we're very fortunate to have here today. After this, we will ask everyone to turn on their cameras so we can take a group selfie to commemorate this inaugural event, so be prepared for that cue. And this will be followed by splitting out into breakout groups, and we'll explain how that all works, but essentially it's all done automatically based on the preferences that you stated in your registration forms. And each of those sessions will be led by different experts. The sessions are being recorded, so you'll get a chance to go back and kind of choose your own adventure into the other sessions that you might have not been able to participate in. After these breakout sessions, we will reconvene back into this main room and hear from each group about some of the highlights from these discussions. So let's move on now to our introductions. For those who are unfamiliar, SWAN, the Smart Water Networks Forum, is the leading global hub for the smart water sector. It's a UK-based nonprofit that brings together leading international industry experts to accelerate the awareness and adoption of smart, data-driven solutions in water and wastewater networks worldwide. We, the Rising Smart Water Professionals, are the leading community for students and early career professionals who are passionate about smart water and wastewater. Our community is designed for us to meet, share research and innovations, receive professional advice, find potential career opportunities, and stay updated regarding the latest trends in the industry. From my perspective, the Rising Smart Water Professionals are positioned to take on the water sector's challenges by integrating and creating leading-edge technologies. This leadership team that you'll meet in just a moment endeavors to bring together the global community of early career professionals who are interested in smart water technologies. And as a community, we aim to forge strong, supportive, and engaged networks that will be on the forefront of creating the water sector of the future. So let's meet our team. So first up, I'll introduce myself. I am Emma Wijsboord, a digital water consultant at Royal Hiscoen DHV in the Netherlands. And in my day-to-day job, I work to support the digital transformation of the global water sector. And I've asked each one of our leadership team to prepare a fun fact about themselves, so I'll go first. My fun fact is that when I was living in Guantanamo, Cuba, I ended up headlining the Guantanamera Festival as the water god while spinning fire. Let's move on to Moulton. If you can turn on your camera and microphone and introduce yourself, please.
Thank you, Emma. Hi, I'm Moulton. I'm a recent graduate from North Carolina State University with my master's. I'm currently located in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm a big fan of European football. I play and watch the game very often. So that's a fun fact about me.
Nice, thank you, Moulton.
Thank you.
On to Rudy.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. I'm Rudy from Cape Town, South Africa. I have a history of working in wastewater infrastructure design, but I'm currently working for a circular economy development agency. And fun fact is I love dancing, all types, but in particular salsa, and I'm really missing it at the moment. Over to Jessica.
Thank you, Rudy. Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Ertel. I have several years of consulting experience across sustainability, water resources, and energy space. And I recently transitioned into the data science field. So I'm really excited to be a part of today's event. And one fun fact about me, when I was about 3 years old and getting potty trained, I demanded that my parents explain to me where the poopies went. So to satisfy me, they told me that they would go down the drain to Bob at the factory.
Not that far from the truth.
Although,
Thanks, Jessica. Lisa, you're up.
Great. So I'm Lisa Andrews. I currently work at KWR in the Netherlands. I am the Water Share Engagement Manager, and I also work as a researcher in the Innovation and Valorization team, which basically means I work on many, many, many different topics, from the circular economy to crisis communications and knowledge transfer and learning theories. So it's a very exciting position. And a fun fact about me is that I play Ultimate Frisbee. And back when I was home in Montreal, I played on a team and we won our league championship. So that was really fun.
Nice one. Great. So for everyone, this is your leadership team. You can reach out to any of us anytime to ask us questions, comments, give us suggestions on what you'd like to see. We are aiming to create a distributed leadership team where no one person is in charge. And we're trying to forge a new type of governance structure for this community. So we're always open to suggestions. So now that you've met us, let's move on to the next slide so that we can tell you a little bit about what we've done so far. And this is really with the intention of creating an engaging risk program of activities. At the end of 2019, we launched a survey to gather feedback about what really matters to you. And we're really grateful for the input that we received. We want to make RiSWP the most accessible and relevant community possible for young professionals around the world who are interested in smart water. And the amount of responses was really overwhelming. We're diving into each and every piece of input to really craft an agenda that is suited for the 21st century and responsive to your needs as early career professionals. I would also note that the intention of the breakout groups today is to continue to get a pulse check on what our community needs with regards to these various topics of interest. So again, we want to be responsive to your needs as they evolve. So keep us posted on that. So with that, I'll hand it over to Jessica to talk through the responses for that first survey. Over to you, Jessica.
thanks for the introduction. So as Emma mentioned, we were really excited about the high response volume and the valuable insights that we gained from those who participated in the survey. And as you could have seen in the last slide, we received a total of 95 responses across 34 different countries. And I would say I found the profile of respondents really impressive. We had an age range of 19 to 45 years old, with an average age of around 30. And 88% of our respondents indicated that they would benefit from mentorship. So that's a big focus area, mentorship in terms of working in the smart water field or transitioning in. But I think what really resonated with me from the survey feedback was that 82% of respondents indicated that they were already open to the idea of mentoring other smart water professionals in the future. And I think that just kind of illustrates this really collaborative and supportive nature of this community. Not to mention the fact that 2/3 of the survey respondents were in the first 6 years of their career, which is really a kind of pivotal and transformative time in your career. So the fact that there is that support network is really promising. And then just in terms of the feedback that we received, we're really interested, as Emma mentioned, in understanding people's preferences and how we can be delivering value as a leadership team to the community. So there's a clear preference for more workshops, webinars, and mentorship or career counseling events. So as the way that this event is structured, is really taking into account that feedback. It's a reflection of the responses that we received at the end of last year. And the breakout sessions are going to allow us to get a better sense of how we can continue to support and grow this network. So I encourage you all to please take advantage of this opportunity, make your voice heard in the breakout sessions, and participate in the discussion, because we really are listening.
And now for our breakout room topics, we selected 10 topics from the survey results that Jessica was speaking about that arose as sort of key challenges faced by our young professionals. And we actually had our LinkedIn group voting on which they thought were most important to discuss. And these are the top 5. So we'll be discussing them in each of our breakout rooms today. And we've invited experts to help us discuss these sessions. Some young professionals and others more experienced to give us a nice range of input and discussion. And now for a bit more on the logistics of the breakout rooms, will be automatically transferred into your pre-assigned breakout room. So in your registration for this session, you chose your top 3 and you'll be automatically transferred into one of those. And then the breakout sessions will run for 45 minutes each. And at the end of that session, there will again be an automatic pop-up on your screen that'll take you back into the main room where we'll get some feedback from each of the groups on what happened in those sessions. Over to Moulton for our keynote intro.
I think first we just want to do a bit of an icebreaker before we introduce our lovely keynote. And so we're going to use Menti. I'm sure many of you have used it by now with this whole pandemic keeping us nice and active online. So one question that we want to know from you is, what body of water is your country or region known for? So all you have to do on your smartphone or computer in a new tab is go to www.menti.com and enter in this code and answer as clearly as possible, and then we'll show the results live to see where most people are somewhat located or which famous body of water they live by. So let us know if you have any issues in the chat, but I'll go to the live results now. Hopefully we have some coming in. Okay, Caribbean Sea, that sounds nice. Missouri River, the Thames, waterfalls, Loch Ness. Is that a water body? Sea of Galilee, Potomac River, Po River, Wadden. Nice, this is really fun. It seems like a lot of people are from the Mediterranean. That seems to be a more popular one coming in. English Channel. I'll give it a few more minutes. Lake Michigan. So yeah, we have quite a spread of people from across the globe, from the States, the Caribbean, Europe, and the Mediterranean, the Great River Ouse, Volta in Africa, Wadden, that's in the Netherlands, right? Great. Well, we just wanted to do this quick icebreaker for you guys to kind of get to know each other a bit better and to see where we're coming from. I mean, I can go back to the results again and we can just see maybe a few more. The Lake District. Yeah, so people are keep coming in, so that's great. And Emma's writing Great Lakes in the chat. If you didn't realize already, Emma and I are both from Canada and from the same region, so.
Great. The same accents.
Yes, we may say a lot, but that's okay. All right, so thanks everyone for saying where you're from. We thought it was just a fun ice-breaking activity and to get an idea of where all of our participants are coming from right now, so that's great. So now I'll hand it over to Moulton to introduce our keynote speaker, Joone Lopez. Moulton?
Thanks, Lisa. Once again, thanks everybody for joining. Today we have a great keynote speaker for you. It's my privilege to introduce Joone Lopez. She's the General Manager of the Moulton Niguel Water District, which provides water, wastewater, and recycled water services to 6 cities in South Orange County in California. She holds a master's degree in public administration from California State University at Northridge and a bachelor's degree in communications from UC San Diego. I'm delighted to extend a warm welcome on behalf of the RiSWP team and the participants and invite her to talk a few words about the occasion.
All right, well, thank you so much. And I am so honored and excited to be with all of you today. Just listening to where you are all from all over the world, and I know that you are so accomplished. It's just an honor for me to be part of the conversation. And hopefully I can say something that you find it to be worth your time, because it's always a little intimidating when you talk to a global audience like this, especially that are so accomplished. And Emma gave me a great advice though. She gave me the gift of a reminder. She told me that about 2 years ago, she heard me on a podcast and she was making some career decisions and she found the comments to be helpful. And that made me feel great, first of all. And it also made me realize that we all have the ability to help each other with our stories. And it's not that my story is impressive. It's a story of a very ordinary person being part of some of the most extraordinary moments in life. And what I encourage you to do is to think about your story, because I can already tell by looking that you have some very interesting stories that I think will be so helpful. And I was so happy to see the results of the survey, that not only do you seek mentor, you seek to learn, but you also seek to help and help others grow as well. And that is the most important thing that we can do. And that's why forums like this is so powerful and important, because as support network, you will find to be invaluable as you grow and succeed in your career. So just want to tell you a little bit about me. And I'm going to start with the takeaways. I'm going to start from the end. I hope at the end of my talk, you walk away with two things. One, I hope you sit back and say, wow, if she can do it, I can do it. And I can do it better, because you can. And secondly, I hope that you are more engaged and excited about leadership. Not for the future, not for a year from now, but right now. Because to me, when people think about leaders and leadership, they think, oh, well, you know, someone's born with this leadership skills, you have to have a certain amount of tenure, title. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with your intention. Because to me, a leader is someone who earns the trust of others, so they believe in something greater than themselves, and in doing so, become their greatest selves. And you can do that now. You have the ability, and because you have that talent and the ability, it's your responsibility to do that. So this isn't something that we're looking a year from now. This starts immediately. You know, I started in water in 2003, which wasn't that long ago, but it feels like it's been a long time ago. And it's been a very different experience for me compared to some of my other colleagues in water, because I've always been sort of this outlier, a little bit of an outcast. And the reason why I say that is because I'm different. I think different. I do things a little differently. Some people tell me I look different than your sort of profile of general manager. My background is very different. But I'm used to that, because all my life I feel like I've always been a little bit of an outcast. I always had a hard time finding my place. And it started from since I was a child. My parents and I immigrated from South Korea when I was 8 years old. This was in 1979, so way, way, way back. And it was a very culture shock. I didn't know a word of English. I had no idea what this country was like. So it took a long time, because not knowing the language, not knowing the culture, growing up, I was very overweight. I was very unathletic. All these things that make someone very unpopular. So going through bullying and all those things that make childhood tough. So I always felt like I really could use some help. There were a lot of moments in my life growing up where I thought it would be nice if someone could help me. And oftentimes that help never came. So that's when I had the resolve to say, I will be the helper. I will help people, because I know what it's like to not receive that help, to feel a little lonely, out of place. And so that has been my drive throughout my life. But I wasn't sure how I was actually going to do that. You know, when you talk to some very successful people, they tell you they have a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan. As a matter of fact, that's one of the most popular interview questions. Where do you see yourselves 5 years from now? Well, I had no idea. I had no vision of where my career, where my life was going to take me. I just knew that I wanted to help, but I didn't know how. And all I could do was take each day and do the very best that I can to help others in the smallest of ways. And so out of college, my first job was to be a journalist. And I thought, well, I can help people by telling their story. I can be helpful. Unfortunately, as a startup newspaper, as a journalist back then, you didn't make a lot of money. And circumstances happened in my life where I had to take care of my parents and I had assumed the head of the household. So I had to go find a job where I could make more money to take care of everyone. And back in the 90s, this is when I got the job with the city of Pasadena as a grant administrator. And this job I was absolutely unqualified for, not underqualified, but unqualified. And what I mean by that is I had no business even getting to the interview. The only reason I got the interview was because I was helpful. I helped someone when I was dropping off my application, and unbeknownst to me, a future interview panelist saw me being nice and thought, for her good deeds, let's give her the shot at the interview. That's how it happened, and I got the job. The moral of that story is always stretch yourself. Because oftentimes I hear people, and especially young professionals, say, well, you know, this job I really want to do, but I don't think I have the experience. I don't think I have the qualification. I don't think I'm ready. And I always tell them, take some risks. Stick your neck out there. You never know until you stretch. That's the only way that you grow. There's an old saying that the only way a turtle gets ahead by is sticking its neck out. So sometimes it can be scary when you don't know if you can do the job. But trust yourself, believe in yourself. You are all here because you not only have the talent, but you have the desire to make a difference. And trust those good intentions, trust your heart, and follow your heart. Now, doesn't mean it's gonna be nice and smooth. This is my first real job, had a lot of bumps. I remember almost passing out twice in my first year because I was so nervous. I remember tanking so bad in public speaking in front of the city council, I almost passed out. And I remember my first confrontation from this very big business leader who did not agree with me and let everybody knew, including me, how wrong I was. Almost passed out again because I was so nervous. But you know what? You live through it. You get through it. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And that's where you have to find your strength, is that I will do better next time. The more you fall, the more you rise. And that's the whole part of the lesson, is that when you stretch yourself, it will be uncomfortable. It will be very nerve-wracking. It will be frightful at times, but that's okay. You will outlast. You will live through it. Trust in yourself and allow yourself to grow and be strengthened by the hardest and the most difficult moments. And then from there, I went into law enforcement. Now, that wasn't by design. Again, if you look at my resume, it's sort of this meandering path that has really no rhyme or reason. Because the way that I got into law enforcement is, as I was working in this job as a grant administrator, I worked very closely with the police department. And some of the command staff said, hey, Joone, did you ever think about being a police officer? I said, never in my life. They said, well, we think you'd be good. I thought, really? Well, I respected them. I figured they knew more than I did, so I tried it, and I absolutely loved it. Because being a police officer is the closest thing to being a superhero. You get to really help people, and that's what I loved. Every day, every moment, I could help people, and I love that. I learned so much about people from different walks of life. I learned about their stories, and learned a valuable lesson of never judge a book by its cover, because you have no idea. And in learning about them, I also learned about myself, my strengths, my weakness, my humility. And I learned that it's okay to be vulnerable. Because you know, vulnerable doesn't mean weakness. It means that you are good in your own skin, that you are okay opening yourselves up. Let the criticism come, let the praise come, it doesn't matter. This is your authentic self. And when you really are true with people and they know that you care, you establish relationships and bonds with the most unlikely people. And that was the biggest lesson that I took away from law enforcement. It also teaches you about courage, not knowing what's going on, making decisions in tough situations, facing life and death. I was involved in a shooting, and that was to protect the people. And you just realize that courage doesn't mean that you're not afraid. It is very normal. It is human nature to be afraid. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's working through it despite that. And that can come in any situation, in your personal life, in your professional life. Embrace that feeling. And instead of allowing yourself to go into the shadows because you're afraid. Stand up and see what you can do. Test yourself, push yourself, and you will be always, I promise, amazed at what you can do. Even beyond your expectation, even beyond what people tell you can do. If you do it for the right intentions, if you do it with the right fervor, that you can establish and do things that you never thought was possible. So how did I get in from law enforcement to water? Again, another crazy turn, right? It was time in my life where I wanted to settle down and start a family. And law enforcement was not the most conducive profession for that. And so I started just looking for a job. I applied to be a teacher, sales, training. Again, I had no idea what my next career was going to be. I went back to school and got my master's because everyone suggested that would be a good idea to make myself more marketable, but still had no idea. And I was very lucky that the first place that called me was a water agency in Los Angeles. And I started at the lowest level in the public affairs department. As a matter of fact, my first day, my supervisor said, "You're everyone's peon, so just do what everyone tells you to do." And that's the other thing. There is no task too small, because when you're helping, sometimes it's the big, cool things that you do to help others, but sometimes it's a little thing. And I remember taking out the trash and washing the dishes, and I said, I'm going to be the best trash taker, the best dishwasher. Whatever people gave me, I would do the best job. And I did all the work that nobody wanted to do. And I did it with a good attitude. And you know, when you're a hard worker and you do all the things that nobody wants to do, they kind of like having you around. And I think that really allowed me to grow in my profession and go into all these areas of promotion. But what really made me want to be a general manager had nothing to do with sort of this career ambition. It really came out of frustration. Because ever since I started in water, I always felt like the odd duck. You know, typically you have engineers, you have attorneys, you have finance people. It's always kind of the typical mold. And if you look at a water agency organization, I don't know how it is around the world, but certainly in the United States, we all have similar titles, same org chart. And I didn't fit any of that because my background was so different. So I asked a lot of different questions. And I realized quickly that that was annoying to people because I always thought, well, why do we do it this way? What if we did it differently? Can we do it better? And a lot of times those questions that were really born from a good place of being inquisitive and trying to improve was sometimes mistaken as questioning people. And that wasn't so well received. And what I realized is that after a while, that there weren't enough questions. There weren't enough questions that challenged the status quo. And I heard things like, oh, you know, we've always done it this way. Oh, you haven't been around here long enough to know. Just sit there and watch, don't say so much. We got this. And when that time comes, you can do that. Oh, and we have to wait until people retire because, you know, we have a process and we have our organizational progression. All these things that if you're a dreamer and you have ideas, it's very stifling. And I also realized that sometimes people didn't care about people in the organization or others in the community. And so out of this frustration, before I got too jaded, I said, well, let me see if I can be a general manager. Let me see if I can do things differently. And that was how I started my career as a general manager. And I do love being a general manager. It's not because I'm in charge. I'll tell you, we would not be doing any of the things that we are doing if it weren't for the employees and the partners that we have. My job is to work for all of them and answer to them. And the way that I look at the role of a manager, a leader, however you couch it, whether it's an organization, whether it's a group or a department, I see my responsibility as setting the environment, an environment that fuels creativity, innovation, growth, freedom, security. Those are the things that I aspire to do. And in my time in Northern California, my first job as a general manager, and now my time in Moulton Niguel, I have learned that no matter where you go, as things seem very, very different, especially when it comes to water, we have more in common than we are different. And a lot of times when we talk about water and other utilities and resources, it's a very passionate discussion. People really get personal. And it's important to understand how other people feel so we can better serve the public. And how do we do that? What kind of an organization do we create? It really starts with a foundation. And there are three things: honesty, effort, respect. Always your integrity is your first and foremost. Effort, your best effort, not perfection. Respect, regard for others, and treating others not just as well as you want to be treated. That's the golden rule, and we know that. But someone once taught me about the platinum rule. Treat others better than you want to be treated. That is the foundation of our organization. And it's like building a house when you create this agency, when you create this environment. Because in the flyer for this talk, SWAN was very generous in calling our agency a progressive utility, saying that we are about the workforce, the people, and we're about innovation and supporting rising young professionals such as yourselves. That is exactly who we are. But we have to build that. So once you establish the foundation, it's creating the structure. It's like building a house. What kind of a house do you want? You want something that's resilient, especially in our industry. We've seen with the pandemic, people rely on us. We have to anticipate what's going to happen in the future, not just respond to what is present. And there are mounting challenges, unprecedented challenges. And you want to be impactful. You want to have a meaningful impact on the lives of those you serve, because we are in the public service for a critical resource. You want to be about performance, high performing. Who doesn't want to be a part of that? Who wants to be stagnant? And an agency and an organization or a group that's always evolving. Change is the norm because it's about progression, it's about improvement. And how do you build that kind of an organization that people want to come work for? How do I build an organization that you want to come work for? I ask you. My proposition has always been, describe to me your dream organization. Now come help me build it, because I can't do this by myself. That's why the workforce is so critical. Workforce is you, it's the people. Having a workforce that feels safe, that feel the space to allow to try things and fail and say it's okay, and be celebrated when you are successful, to be supported, to feel cared for. What person doesn't want that? And when you do that, it's amazing how people rise to the occasion, what they're capable of. And also having a workforce that's diverse. That's why I love this group. I wish we could all be in the same room. I would just love to interact with you. And after today, I hope that you will stay in contact with me, because all my information will be made available. I love the diversity. It's not just about race, gender, it's about perspectives, it's about ideas. And we all come from different places. The world is changing, it's evolving, and we need to reflect that. We need to understand that. And how better but to have a workforce that mirrors a society and the communities that we live in, that has that personal identification. And then you need innovation. Innovation isn't this wild sci-fi abstract thing, right? Again, my definition, I create my own definitions, but my definition of innovation is unleashing imagination to help those around you. That's what innovation is, little things to big things to wild things. And you have to allow space for that. Integration, we are connected to everything, especially when it comes to water. We are connected to every facet of society. We do not work in silo, we do not work in a bubble. Reach out, talk to people, others that are outside of your universe. Talk to people who are very different than you are. It's the only way that you'll learn. And of course, you need the network. You need friends. You need friends like this. That's what you're doing right now. The Rising Smart Water Professional. This is your network. This is a network that's going to grow exponentially. And the wonderful things that we have been doing at our agency is because of the wonderful friends that we have outside of water as well as in the water. So what does this all amount to? And I'm going to kind of toot our horn just here for a second as we're closing up. All this has led to some really powerful events in our organization. One, we were voted 3 years in a row top workplace in Orange County. Now in workplace, we have some very affluent companies, places like Zillow and others. It's a really hub of talent. It's the first time that a public agency, a utility, has gotten the designation as the #1 place to work in Orange County. Again, it starts with the foundation, how people feel and how people believe in what they're part of. We also received Amazon Global Award for the most innovative utility. That meant so much because we're not a big agency, we're a medium-sized agency doing really big things. But again, we work with them to understand innovation, to try and not be afraid to fail. We also got recognized by U.S. Environmental Protection Agency as one of 8 utility agencies in the country for best case in workforce development. These are something we are so proud of, but one of the most proud thing that we have done is the founding of the California Data Collaborative. I heard several of you say you're data scientists, and boy, is there a need in this industry for you. We were one of the first agencies to hire data scientists because we always knew that water suffered from lack of good data. We know a lot of anecdotes, we can have these graphs, but we really didn't have the kind of data that we're talking about, these granular, standardized, centralized data that's put on open platform for others to share and weigh in on and iterate. Words like agile, iteration, incubator, like these things did not exist in our industry, but we started that because I saw people like yourselves that had ideas that were smart, and I asked, what do we do? How do we do it? And they helped to build it. So we started this collaborative as a grassroots effort, started with us and 5 other agencies that we called, and this was during the California historic drought when we were requiring all these mandates and legislations that were going to have far-reaching impact, but we just didn't have good data. So how do we make better informed decisions? So we got our staff together. We also brought in a lot of talent from outside. We started this pool. And then 5 years later, we represent as a nonprofit 21 million Californians. So this is aside from running a water, wastewater, recycled water agency. We started this nonprofit. And I'll tell you what, I'm not a data expert, but my secret passion for this has to do with the people. Because this effort is inviting to the discussion, to the water space, people that typically weren't part of the conversation, people from different parts of the sector, people from different parts of the world, people who look very different than the people we typically talk to. It has created a forum of inclusion, imagination, and progression. And I am respectful of your time. I can talk all day, but I know you've got a very full program and a great breakout session, which I'm thrilled to be a part of. But again, I hope that the takeaway is you already have the power because you have the mind. You're brilliant, you're talented, and you have the heart because you take the time, you take the care to be part of something like this, to support one another. Never ever change. No matter what people tell you, no matter what kind of setbacks you have, always dream, always care, always believe. And that will take you further than you will ever think that you can. And as you do, bring your friends with you and build that friendship circle, build that network. And through partners like SWAN to create this global dialogue is something that I'm very thankful and grateful for. And if there's anything that I can ever do for any one of you, please do reach out. And I mean that because people have and people do. And I do love helping. And I find that, unfortunately, I get more out of it most of the time than I feel like what I give. But I'll do the best that I can. So with that, I thank you so much for this opportunity to address all of you. And I'm just excited for the path that you are on and hope to be part of your journey. Thank you.
I think Lisette just suggested a collective applause, so.
You guys are so nice.
It was wonderful. Thanks so much, Joone. We're collecting questions in the group chat, and as we discussed, I'll filter those over to you to be responded to in the next little while, and we can post that all on LinkedIn. So for now, I will pass it back to, I think Lisa is facilitating the next section.
Yeah, hold on. Okay, so yeah, thank you so much, Joone. That was an amazing speech, and I think we're all very, very inspired now and probably all want to come work for you. So thank you. And now we're going to have a little bit of fun. So what I'm going to do is ask you all to turn on your cameras. And we're going to take a group selfie of everyone who's here and share it on social media and after the session. So I will stop sharing the screen again, and then we'll go to gallery view and we'll get to see everyone, and we can wave at everyone who's here from across the globe. So we have like 2 pages full of people. This is great. All right, so in a few seconds, once all the cameras are on, I'll ask you all to put on your best smiles. You can wave or do a thumbs up. I see some cameras are still off, but okay, are we ready? So everybody, 1, 2, 3, cheese. Okay, wait, one more picture. Okay, smile, cheese. Great. Thank you, everybody. Lovely to see you all. And now we will go into our breakout rooms. So you'll be automatically assigned now by SWAN, and we'll see you back here in 45 minutes. So enjoy your discussions.
Yeah, I see a couple comments in the chat. We'll definitely be sharing the pictures, so don't worry about that. And we're just organizing the breakout rooms now. I see Shayna hard at work getting that organized for us. So just bear with us and keep the chat going. We'll try to get to all the questions. And note also, if there are questions for breakout sessions that you're not in, you can add them on LinkedIn, and we'll do our best to respond to them with the wonderful experts that are helping moderate those breakout sessions. So Shayna, how are we doing?
Yes, I apologize, everyone. There is a minor glitch here. I am moving everyone now, but please just allow up to a few minutes. Emma, if you want to share some antidotes or something.
Some antidotes. Yes, I'll do that. Actually, maybe while we're just organizing that, I saw a couple of questions come through for Joone. So Joone, if you don't mind answering some of those while we're getting the breakout room sorted, that would be awesome. One of the questions was from Shirley. Hi, Shirley. Great to have you on. How do your colleagues raise innovative ideas for the benefit of the utility? And what's the process for encouraging this internal innovation? Did we lose Joone also?
Maybe she's on mute.
Scroll, there's so many faces to look through. It's a really good question.
Joone will be coming back in just 1 minute.
Okay. All right. Bye. Some other questions in here also, but yeah, keep them going. Joone was very keen to connect with everyone after the event. She could answer questions on LinkedIn as well, either via chat or video, but do feel free to connect with her on LinkedIn. We can provide her contact details as well.
Yeah, and also the recording of the breakout rooms will also be made available online afterwards, as Emma said at the beginning. So for some of us that joined us later, you can also then rewatch some of the other breakout rooms and the discussions from other experts.
Hi, Lisa. I was brought back.
Oh, hello. You're here.
Hi.
Yay. We're just kind of ad-libbing while we sort out some technical glitches, and we're wondering if you could answer a couple of questions that are coming through the chat.
Oh, sure.
Before we filter them through. So the first question was from Shirley. And the question is, how do your colleagues raise innovative ideas for the benefit of the utility? And what's the process for encouraging the internal innovation?
So we have an innovation committee that's comprised of representatives from different departments. But we encourage innovation at all levels. So we have monthly all hands. This is where I talk to all the employees, and now that we're virtual, I do virtual all hands where we gather all the employees together. And I always emphasize the importance of ideas. I want your ideas. And little things to big things, when people see that their ideas are actually implemented, then it gives them the motivation to come up with more ideas. Because how can I help you support the work that you do? And how can we better serve our community? So I always encourage people to think beyond what we've done, and for that they get rewarded, whether it's promotion, whether it's recognition, and always encouraging people to collaborate with others on ideas. Because I'm never impressed by what you do singularly. I'm always impressed by what you do with others. And so this collective innovation, pushing each other to be more creative and better, is what we do in the organization. So sometimes people will come up to me and they tell me their ideas. And this is where, as a manager, you have to make yourself accessible, going out to the field, making the rounds, as I call it, and saying, do you have any ideas? What can I do to help? And that comes in a daily conversation. But having something structured like the Innovation Committee is also very helpful, because when some of the more bigger ideas can be vetted through there and brought to light. And we try things. And sometimes it works, sometimes not so well. And when it doesn't work, the buck stops with me, and I said that was my fault. I'll assume responsibility. But when it does work well, give the credit to everyone. And it really energizes, because everyone feels like they are contributing to this organization, that they have a place. And it doesn't matter whether you're entry level or you're a seasoned veteran. It doesn't matter about your tenure. It doesn't matter about your background. It just matters what your idea is.
I really like your point about it's not necessarily about individual innovation, but as a group. And I think that's something that I've really noticed so strongly in the water sector is we have to be multidisciplinary moving forward. And this is also a core tenet of how we want to build out the RiSWP community, is making it as multidisciplinary as possible. Because without having all of these different expertise come in, we can't solve problems. A technologist on their own can't solve a problem without a social scientist who can give the cultural context, for example. And so that innovation mentality that does include a wider perspective from different communities is just so important.
Exactly, and you can't have innovation that's meaningful without collaboration, because what you do is not just remains with you, it affects other people. And if you're trying to make a broader, meaningful, deeper impact, you really need to get the perspective of potentially everyone who could be affected by it.
Yeah, very good point. I see Shanna's still working on resolving the glitch. Unfortunately,
it's done in less than 30 seconds.
No problem. Let's go through the other question here from Rudy. The question is, how can we as young professionals help our organizations become the best workplace like yours? Do we have a say from the bottom up, and how? It's a big question.
Speak up and get involved. Stick your neck out. It's not always a comfortable feeling, like I said, but you have something to say. You have a perspective. And again, don't be limited by your title or your tenure. Say what needs to be said, because you'll often find that there are many others who think the same way. They're just not voicing it. And never be discouraged when your idea doesn't get implemented. Never be discouraged when someone says no to you. In fact, become more motivated for that and say, I will not do that when I become in a position of influence and have some authority to help others. So I would say really know the organization well, take the time to talk to your other colleagues, understand the work that they do, the concerns that they have, the ideas that they have, and support each other. Because the less you make it about you, the more you realize the impact that you'll have. Because when people see that you're helpful, when people see that you care in any capacity, they will gravitate towards you and they will support you. And so it's not you going at it alone, because sometimes being innovative can feel very lonely. So you need some friends around you to give you that moral support. So in an organization, work hard, understand as much of it as possible, so that when you come up with ideas and you share it with others, that it actually has a kind of impact that you're envisioning. And never worry about who gets the credit. Always be ready to have someone else take credit for your great idea and great work. Because in the end, it will all level itself out. In the end, the outcome is the most important thing. And what you'll find is that whether you get the credit or not, you'll know, and everybody else does too. And if you focus on everybody around you and trying to help them, then you'll be amazed at what you can build and what you can create. And that's why I always invite people all levels of the organization, is that I work for you. Around here, titles don't matter. Every opinion counts. I want to hear from you. As a matter of fact, when everybody agrees with me, I get a little irritated because that means they're not thinking hard enough. There's no way I got this right the first time. Come on, you got to disagree with me here a little. And inviting that kind of conversation and putting yourself out there to say, I don't know everything. I don't have this right, but help me take this raw idea, thought, and now let's make it better together.
It's really interesting. I was listening to a podcast on different types of leadership, and one of the speakers on the podcast, who I'm completely blanking on now, of course, was talking about how when they have new people joining their team, he'll ask somebody at their level within the team to, during a meeting, question one of the things that he said and push back on him publicly, so that that tone is set from the start, and then that culture is built throughout the organization to push back on people who might be your boss or your manager. And I think that's so important, no matter what sector you're in, but particularly in the water sector, to be able to question things and make sure that you're aiming for the right outcome and not necessarily the process as it should be.
Absolutely. And like I said, sometimes it won't be well received. I'm just going to give you a warning. When you speak up, you're not always get this warm reception that you might get from me. And that's okay, because you can challenge and you can question, and you do it respectfully and nicely, and that way they don't feel so threatened. But over time that will change. And one of the things that I always sort of push back when I hear from my colleagues, because you know we're all older than you, they say, well, you know, these millennials or these next generation, oh gosh, you know, they're just not the way we were. They have such a sense of entitlement. What's wrong with them? And I do remind them, well, we only have ourselves to blame then, don't we? Because these are our children. How do we raise them? So every generation thinks that the generation after theirs is not as good as theirs. But in fact, we do get better with every generation. It's not the sense of entitlement, I remind my colleagues. It's a sense of self-belief, self-confidence.
Yeah,
These
thanks
are
so much,
things
Joone.
that we have tried to teach our children. Now it's manifesting. And good for you. Speak up and not be afraid. This whole thing of keep your mouth shut and listen, those days should be long in the past. And even if it's not popular, say what needs to be said, and you will grow from that.
Thank you. Yeah, those are powerful words, and I think it's great for all of us as young leaders to really hear this from someone who has had such a meandering career path, and to also like just inspire us to be the leaders of tomorrow that we should be. So Shayna's just told me that we're ready for the breakout rooms now. So we're just going to do very quick feedback. So what I'll do is I'll ask each of the LT members to just give the key outcomes of their session in one sentence. So since I see Emma first, Emma, what was the main outcome of your breakout room?
Yeah, so I ended up missing the first part due to some technical glitches, but I did get a couple of words feedback from everyone around what our community as RiSWP can provide. And those words were the SWAN model came out as a topic of interest. Stakeholders, also very interesting to hear that. And co-production and collaboration were the two other pieces of feedback that we received. And then
can you remind us of what your session was, the title?
Yeah, good point. I was in the Water People Technology session with Finn Boyle. And I don't know if Finn or Sapir have anything they wanted to add to that of parts that I missed.
Sapir, and it was a really great session, truly understanding the different perspectives coming into how to bring change, what is necessary, and a big kudos also to Finn for really urging everyone to stick to the water industry and showing us how we're bringing value.
Awesome. So I'm going to ask the next person to be even quicker because we're already running out of time. So I'll go to Rudy. So just remind us of your title and what were the one key outcome that you think is most important to share.
Thanks, Lisa. My topic was implementation and uptake of smart water technologies, and some of the key takeaways were skill shortage in data science, and cloud-based systems are key for integrating various sensors, but it all relies on the quality of the data. Thanks.
Awesome. So I'm sorry if you guys saw some distracting elements in my background. I'm clearly at the office late and they're already cleaning and trying to kick me out. Okay, next up, I'll ask Moulton, what was your topic and what is one key message?
Thanks, Lisa. So my topic was the role of AI in water, and Prabhu gave a good talk about adding value to water businesses through AI. And we also had a good discussion about implementing AI in other countries apart from US, such as Portugal. It was a good discussion.
Thank you. I'm glad it went well. Jessica, you're up next.
Hi, we did the climate smart water technologies session, and some big things that we talked about were being able to equip maybe people coming from a more sciencey or social science or non-engineering background with programming skills, and other kind of some of the hard skills. We talked about the importance of kind of having utility leaders and people that were willing to take on some of these newer technologies and spearhead that movement. And we talked about some of the differences between staying in academia versus going into industry, and different career paths, and how it's important to, you know, turn your obstacles and challenges and regrets into opportunities.
Awesome. Yeah, and that kind of is a good segue into my group. We were upskilling to become a smart water professional, and I had expectations that it would all be quite technical in nature, but actually it was all about the social and soft skills, which was very nice for me because that's my background. But yeah, we talked about how RiSWP can serve the community in upskilling, and it was mostly about having mock interviews or having one-on-one sessions with senior professionals, and also building a community where the young professionals and RiSWP community can bounce ideas back off of each other. So we thought about Zoom calls and webinars where people can just kind of talk and exchange. So that was really good. So thank you to everyone who participated in our breakout rooms. I hope they were useful. And now we'll get to closing this session, and Emma will kind of give a summary of what's next.
Yeah, so thanks everyone. And again, thank you for your patience with some of the technical difficulties. Unfortunately, we're not in the same room, so we can't walk away all together and go grab a coffee after. But instead, please be sure to join the LinkedIn group. That's where we'll be sharing all of the upcoming information as we start building out all of these different programs that we have in mind. There's a SWAN 2020 conference coming up next week, so do register and join if you're free. For anybody who's interested, you can also join SWAN as a member, either individually or as part of your university or organization. So the benefits of that include free or discounted passes to the conference, as well as access to research, webinars, and many more networking opportunities. But for you to note that RiSWP is and will continue to be free to participate in. So thank you, Sapir, for popping the LinkedIn group message in there. And then just a note on some of the other activities that your leadership team is building out. We're starting work on a mentorship program, an ambassadors program, and a few other things up our sleeves for you to stay tuned on the LinkedIn channel, and we'll keep sharing that. So keep an eye out there for our calls for engagement. As I've mentioned a couple of times, we do want this to be as collaborative and integrated as possible with all of your feedback. So don't hesitate to reach out at any point with your ideas, your thoughts, your interest in getting more engaged. We welcome it and we look forward to it. Thank you very much, everyone. Sorry we've gone over time, but hopefully it was useful. We'll also pop a link to the survey in the chat. So do fill that out. It helps us improve for next time, and appreciate everyone's input today. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye. Thanks
Thanks
to
for
everyone.
joining.